When I speak about love, it becomes very clear that what we might call love has so many different interpretations, so many different pictures, so many different ideas. That love is about being loving, that love is about being nice, that love is that we feel loved, that we feel connected. Usually when I speak about love, the most common word that comes up is connection. But I'm talking about something that's way beyond that. It's nothing to do with connection. Connection means I am here and you are there, and there's this vast space between us, and we're trying to connect. I'm talking about something much more intimate than that. The love I speak of has no definition that the mind can hold on to, that the mind can grasp. The love that I speak of has nothing to do with how you feel. It's not a feeling. It has no opposite. It's not about feeling good or feeling loved, because then there's an opposite to that, feeling not so good and feeling unloved. Yeah? It's a different dimension. It's an unknown dimension. It's a dimension of vastness, which can only start to be palpable when you give up all ideas of what spiritual practice is, of what meditation is, of what awakening is, of what freedom is. And you give yourself totally to the intimacy of whatever is happening, whatever is being experienced in your day-to-day life. Always. Very often we think that if we practice stillness or presence or silence, we can somehow replicate that in everyday life, that we can bring that into our relationships, so that when we triggered, we remain still, or we remain silent, or we remain present. But that's an error. Yeah, that's an error. Impose your spiritual practice on life. It's not stillness that's being called for. It's openness. That openness requires such a level of self-exposure, to be willing to expose yourself to yourself, the rawest feelings, the ugliest feelings, the scariest feelings, whatever it is that you might have spent a lifetime contorting yourself around in order to keep it hidden from yourself. It's that's being called for. I don't mean to express it as an outpouring of emotion, but to expose it to yourself, to be willing for the innermost experience to just be here, in you, for some reason, that's one of the most scary things to us. So we create layers and layers of armoring around that, of pretense. And in that pretense, we don't really meet each other, and we don't really meet life. It's an openness that has nothing to do with trust. That's the other word that very often comes up. Well, how can I be open? Doesn't that mean I have to trust life or trust the other? And how can I do that? But it has nothing to do with trust. Trust implies that you know where you're going to land. If I open to you, or if I open to life, or if I open to the depth of my feelings. Trust implies that I need to know, to have an idea of where it is that I'll land if I open. Will I be safe? I need to know that there's a safety net. I need to know that I'll be okay. It's a bargaining. You cannot bargain with life. Well, you can. That's what we do. But bargaining doesn't lead to intimacy. It doesn't lead to love, and it doesn't lead to freedom. True intimacy, true love, true freedom demands that you give up all strategies, all attempts to bargain with life, all attempts to bargain with existence. You give yourself as openness, without the demand or expectation for anything in the return. Whether you trust or don't trust, that's irrelevant. It's an openness that demands that you put down your weapons. The weapons being all the strategies, all the maneuvers. The attempts to be good, so that life rewards you with goodness. The attempts to be loving, so that the other loves you. While it sounds innocuous, in some sense, these strategies are weapons. They keep you in the realm of reactivity, of defense and attack. You can withhold yourself if you don't get what you think that you need in order to be that which you want to be. You can withhold yourself. You can use your weapons to create a barricade. Or you can use your weapons to reject, to attack. To argue with reality. None of those strategies work. They only work to keep the prison walls thicker and higher. that sense, it has nothing to do with spiritual practice. And everything to do with the willingness to turn towards gentleness. The gentleness that is in the depth of you. A gentleness towards your experience. You don't have to fight your experience. You don't have to reject it. You don't have to use it as an excuse to close down, to harden. Be gentle to your innermost experience. That gentleness is towards that. It's also towards everything that you see and interact with. That doesn't mean behaving in any particular way. It means giving up your strategies of war. Gentleness towards our experience, again, seems to be one of the most difficult things. We're so hardwired for hardness. We're so hardwired to be on alert. If something irritates us or frustrates us or agitates us or presses our buttons in some way, we're very quick to believe the rightness of that. So it's not about denying that or pushing that away, but it is about being gentle towards it. Being gentle towards it means that it just passes through. It's not pushed away from your field of consciousness. But it does come into that fully without sticking to you as a sense of righteousness. Because if that stickiness takes place, then it has a impact, it has an outcome. The outcome is your attempt to reject or fight or argue or withdraw or harden or shrink. In being gentle and open, which is the same as being vulnerable, then it can simply be experienced without having a position, without having a place to land. So it moves through you. It moves through your field of experience much more effortlessly and graciously. as you come to know yourself as this openness, then even the whole sense of vulnerability dissolves. There's actually nothing here to be vulnerable or not vulnerable. So then there's no need to trust or not trust. Then there's no need to protect or not protect. Then there's no need to push away or not push away. There's no need to recoil or not recoil. But as you come to know yourself as the openness, which is what you really are, then not only does love become the primary driver of your life, simply because that openness is love. It's an unbounded inner dimension of beingness. But also, you can stop doing spiritual practice. Because there's nothing separate from this openness. There is nothing that can be added to this openness. So nothing that you do will be an improvement of this openness. This openness is the perfection that includes everything, that includes all imperfection. There is nothing other than this.